For a really, really long time, the perception of Duluth, Minnesota was as a very industrial, rundown, Rust Belt town. At one point, the economy of this city was booming and it had the most millionaires per capita of any other place in the country. And then all of a sudden that collapsed. And at one point in the 1980s, Duluth, Minnesota literally had a billboard that said, "Last person out, don't forget to turn the lights off." And we are now just kind of growing out of decades of that economic collapse and starting to turn around and look at who we are and what we value.
Yeah, the bike scene 10 years ago, there wasn't even single track bike trails to ride. And I'd say it was probably about 7 years ago that the club really got organized. So I've really seen it grow a lot. Brad Miller and builder and downhill rider from way back. Now I built pretty much everywhere in town and just love being in the woods and digging dirt and building some new trails. I just love the adventure. It like embodies so many things, being out in the woods and taking a risk, getting enjoying time with your friends, and it just really fulfills like so many things that I enjoy doing. The trail building is a great way to combine all those things too, because I just like staying busy and working. I would just go out and kind of build what I wanted to ride. Then got my experience that way and put it in a lot of trails by hand. Trail building doesn't necessarily live inside, like anybody's box. I think, some people could say, oh, that's my favorite trail, and the next person could say that it's not. It's really like, opinionated. So I think, we got to think back to 10, 12 years ago when we only had a couple tracks to ride, or we didn't have any downhill stuff to ride, and that we are really lucky to have what we have. And no. On your mountain bike and with the trail, you're able to go out and have your own adventure and your personal adventure. And I think that's the draw to mountain biking, and what Duluth has going for it is that you can get out in the woods and maybe get a little lost, or ride something new, or not look at the map and just take this intersection and go down a trail you've never gone down before, and maybe find your new favorite trail.
Yeah, so I'm Barry Burr. Live here and been living here in Duluth for 14 years. Biking the whole time, you know. I pretty much got a mountain bike when I was like 18. I had no clue what single track riding was or anything. It was kind of funny. I mean, back then the riding was not even that great. You know, you had Hartley, maybe some rogue trails out at Lester. Yeah, so we're living right now. Just really couldn't be better. Get done working on the bike and just cut across the street and it's into Piedmont. And then yeah, you just got to decide how much time you have and how far you want to go. There ends up being a lot of days going into work a little bit late.
I can feel the lowest of energy and get out on my bike and feel recharged just by getting out by myself or with friends, just the fresh air, just the perceived fastness, the perceived speed of zipping through trees. It's awesome. It's solitude. It's being outside. It's church, a church for the soul. My name is Dee Bartlam. My husband and I decided to live in Duluth about 20 years ago. And I've seen Duluth and the mountain bike community go through enormous changes. It's so exciting to live in the Duluth that we live in right now. I tried to get into mountain biking in the later 90s, but it was really difficult in Duluth because there weren't a lot of easily accessible trails. So I just kind of put that aside for several years until Flow Trail came into being. Then I just fell in love with it again.
I chose to break it, oh my love, how you've grown to a living thing, all your own when you used to be.
So I started riding in 2012. I was working out here as a lift mechanic and all the downhill trails were being built just around me, like the scene was literally being built around me. Figured I needed a downhill bike and needed to get into it, and it was kind of just clicked. My name is Alex Rohde. Mainly just the guy taking care of the trails out at Spirit, trying to do as best as I can on the races and kind of make a name for myself. I try to put a lot of style into it as much as I can, just getting loose and feeling good on the bike, but I mean, my intuition kind of takes over and I just want to go as fast as I can.
Googly eyes. Alright, actually lift it up here. The thing I love most about Duluth Trails is the fact that it's like a full menu. Some mornings I wake up and I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of hurt and I just want the big, fast, flowy, smooth stuff, just all about soul and carving. And then there's other days when you get up and you're kind of like looking for the gnar. At this point, all the mountain bikers of Duluth have 85 miles of world-class single track literally out their doorstep. So my name is Hansi Johnson, and I've been involved with the Duluth Traverse project really since its start. I started out with the project with the International Mountain Bicycling Association, and now I work for the Minnesota Land Trust. So yeah, I had a choice. I could either live in New England or I could move back to Duluth and be closer to family. And I just looked at Duluth and I thought, it's a place where I could help create those things and be a part of the community and actually bring a lot of the experiences I've had outside of Minnesota back here. Did you see that? We're gonna catch a fish. What's going on in Duluth is the community as a whole is finally starting to realize what they have in the community as far as its natural resources and its open space. And so what we're really doing is looking at all these major open spots and seeing how recreation can play within those spaces, mountain biking being kind of one of the key parts of that. But the interesting thing is that a lot of these spaces were places where people, they just neglected. You saw garbage getting dumped or you saw cars getting burned and all sorts of weirdness happening, and now all of a sudden you're seeing people value it and really start to kind of be proud of it and even brag it up to a certain extent, which even 5 years ago, we didn't have that kind of pride. And I think mountain biking's been one of those things that's really showed not only the mountain bike community, but the overall community, some of the most beautiful spaces we have in the city. The characters and the color are what are making living here even more fun, and people like myself who want to stay here, and hopefully people who want to come have a really fun community to get involved with.